Hey, you finally made it in. Listen, I want to tell you about this new show on Netflix. It's called Stranger Things.
Oh, the Netflix again. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna get right on that.
It's one of the most watched original shows they have.
Okay. I'm gonna get on that. Just give me a minute.
It won MTV's Show of the Year. It's E.T. meets True Detective meets The Goonies.
Matt, we've discussed this. Mornings are for coffee and contemplation.
It's Steven Spielberg meets Stephen King.
Coffee and contemplation, Matt. Vanishing of Will Byers. But I love that they used the word vanishing because it's like a proactive word. Not like he disappeared, but he was made to disappear.
Oh, yeah.
The vanishing of Will Byers. He was vanished.
Even the little tiny minor characters that are barely in the show are really good. Benny is a perfect example.
I was just gonna say Benny.
Hey, can I help you?
Hi, you must be Benny Hammond.
I'm afraid I am. I'm afraid we're closed for the evening too, so try back tomorrow morning.
Benny's in one episode.
So glad you said Benny.
Benny dies.
You know, it's funny. Your voice sounds different.
And I cared that Benny died.
Benny.
After maybe 5 minutes of screen time.
Justice for Benny.
Justice for Benny.
He was so good. I loved Benny, and best person that Elle could have run into, other than Mike.
You like that ice cream, huh? Smile looks good on you.
All the minor characters in this show are fantastic.
The science teacher is great.
The science teacher's so good.
That dad is great.
The other teacher that he is on a date with, she's great. Like, she's hilarious. It feels like an old pop horror novel from... I mean, they did such a good job with the creation of it. You don't do that on TV much, or in movies. Like, I can't think of a time where the actual putting together of it is an element of the story, you know? Music used to do that a lot, where an album, would actually have, like, flow to it. Nowadays, because we, listen to music on, like, streaming, we don't, listen to an album, how it's, like, put together, and so there's not as much thought put into that. But, like, the fact that this TV show... names each episode, and that's in part of the story is really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, very much. The titles were important, and obviously the fact that they called them chapters proves that, and it's an 8-hour-long movie, because it's one unit that was conceived at a time, so too many shows, way too many shows, they say, well, here's the cast we're going to have, and hilarity ensues. Like, here's the core cast, and here's kind of the premise of it, like it's a spy show or a cop show. And then each week our writers are going to come up with stories. There's the monster of the week or the villain of the week or This was conceived from the beginning. It was conceived as a block. What I've read is that the Duffer Brothers have, now J.J. Abrams, take note of this. The Duffer Brothers have a 30-page document of the rules of their universe. How
the Upside Down
works, what the Demogorgon is, what Elle's power set is, which is how it should be done. Awesome. So what that means is, like the flickering lights when Hopper and Joyce go into
the Upside Down.
All the episodes before that, the flickering lights, in a normal show, that would just be, it's flickering lights, it's creepy, it's for effect, whatever, the ghosts make the light flicker. But when Hopper and Joyce go into
the Upside Down,
we see as they walk past each light, it acts up. And as they walk past electronic things, they flash and they flicker and they spark. And they act up. So when anything living, when a human or a Demogorgon or whatever is moving through
the Upside Down, it
affects things in our world. You can hear the sound, so apparently sound transfers across the dimensional barrier. It's not just a mood thing. It's not just, well, this is going to make the scene look good, so we'll do it. It makes sense within the universe. They are so planned out. When you first see Elle, when it pans up from the forest floor to first show you Elle in her hospital gown, there's a tear out of the hem of her hospital gown. When Hopper is searching through the woods and they find that little torn piece of cloth by the drainage pipe, and they say, look, a kid could have crawled through here, and that's the whole reason he goes to investigate the facility. So way back in episode 1, they set that up. It's the Chekhov's pistol, it's the Chekhov's hospital gown.
Yeah, no, you can tell that they planned ahead, and that shows. Do you think, is the Demogorgon a singular entity, or do you think that it is a species of things that live there?
So there are tons of fan theories. So some of the fan theories are that the Demogorgon was a previous patient, so L is number 11.
Gosh.
L is number 11. How many people did
It's
they
like
have
Lilo
in
and
there?
Stitch.
Exactly. Stitch was Experiment 626, and they had a TV show about every other. They had Experiment 625, 624, 623. So presumably there have been other test subjects. So one fan theory is that one of the test subjects, through contact with
The Upside Down,
got turned into the monster somehow.
Interesting.
Another fan theory, now I think all these are wrong, I'll tell you why at the end. I think all these fan theories are wrong, but my favorite fan theory, which I think is wrong, what I would be really happy if it was this, is that the Demogorgon is L. When she went into it's not even
the Upside Down,
but it's whatever dimension her brain goes into when she's spying on the Russians and when she's searching for Will. So when she uses her telepathic viewing, she goes into that dark place with the water on the floor, which is visually...
Joe Rogan's concentration chamber.
Oh, well, yes, exactly. Sensory deprivation tanks. So yeah, when she goes in there, in her mind, it's very different visually from...
the Upside Down.
It's just pure black, and you can't see any details except whatever she's focusing on, and then the floor is water. So we see her going there to spy on the Russian, and then we see her there touching the monster. So the fan theory is that when she went into whatever dimension that is, her brain was very vulnerable or very flexible, and something that she did, either she came across the monster that was a representation of whatever repressed evil feelings she has, or so the moment that she touched it, she separated it from herself and gave it physical form. But that's supported by the scene later in the show where she tells them, "I opened the gate, I'm the monster."
Mike, I'm sorry. Sorry? What are you sorry for? The gate. I opened it. I'm the monster. No, Elle, you're not the monster.
And why would she say, "I'm the monster"? Unless the monster is... And that's, for me, that's Dark Crystal. But in Dark Crystal, which is an 80s movie, the good creatures and the bad creatures were the same, and they had split. So the Mystics and the Skeksis were the good and evil halves of ancient creatures, and they both had separate physical forms. So that's my favorite of all the fan theories, is that the Demogorgon is all the bad things of L, just given physical form and unleashed. It's not tethered down by the good half of L. Now it's just running around free to destroy things. There's a lot of things I think that point to that, and I would love for that to be true. I don't think it is, though, because the actor David Harbour, in an interview, I think gave it away. I think spoiled without meaning to, because he said that he believed that fan theory, and he asked the Duffer Brothers, "Hey, is the Demogorgon L?" And they apparently told him, "No, it's just a monster." Now, unless he was lying to cover up the fact that the fan theory is real, like George R.R. Martin's had to work really hard to try to deny R plus L equals J for a lot of years. So from everything I've heard, the authors just had the Demogorgon as a monster. And I think we do see that in the Season 2 trailer, because we see several other types of monsters. So I think it's like that movie The Mist. Did you see the movie The Mist?
No. Stephen King, though.
Yes. Oh gosh, I didn't even remember that. You're right, that was Stephen King. Completely forgot. The Mist comes in, and just all the creatures of that world then can come in. So there's giant bats, and there's creepy bugs, and there's giant things with legs the size of tree trunks. And in the Season 2 trailer, we see a huge creature with legs the size of tree trunks. It's like a Godzilla-sized spider just stomping through. I think that
the Upside Down
is just a world with its own inhabitants and its own rules and its own monsters and its own predators. So if you dropped a couple humans, if you dropped Will and Barb in the middle of the Amazon jungle, they'd get eaten by jaguars in 90 seconds. So I don't think that the giant spider and the Demogorgon and the little slugs that Will swallows have to be necessarily engineered specifically for the purpose of destroying humans, like in the immortal words of Will Smith.
Oh my god!
Which movie was that? After Earth?
After Earth.
Everything on that planet is evolved to kill you. So I don't think here that we have to believe everything is evolved specifically to hunt and abduct humans. I think it could just be
the Upside Down.
It's equivalent of wild bears and wild coyotes.
Bears.
They are godless killing machines.
Just happen to be eating people.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
I could be wrong, though, because it's also possible that
The Upside Down.
is like a snapshot of the world that was created at a moment. There's some fan theories about that, too, but I think it's just a pre-existing world that it's full of wild monsters.
I think that makes way more sense.
But the Demogorgon, I think, has a whole lot of the Alien franchise in it, because we see that big egg when they're walking through.
The Upside Down.
oh yeah,
There's a big egg that seems to have hatched. Something came out of that. And then both Barb and Will have the little slugs coming out of their mouth.
Ooh.
So I'm guessing the little slugs are like the chest bursters, and then somehow through one or two different life cycles it ends up in the form of a Demogorgon. That's my guess.
That makes sense.
We'd mentioned the Demogorgon on the phone earlier and that it was creepy. I do want to say I think that some people get misconceptions. The way I've heard some people reviewing it and discussing it, I think they think like the Demogorgon is pranking her and it's calling her in at once. I'm pretty sure the Demogorgon did not pick up a phone in
The Upside Down.
and call her.
Yes.
But I
No.
think it just walks by the phone and the phone can pick up whatever kind of signals it's given off.
Mhm.
I think the phone just activates. But to be fair, that's how ghost movies are these days, right? All these stupid ghost movies that are on. The ghosts do really dumb stuff. The ghost will drop a pot on the floor in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Why? You could just possess the human at any time, but you want to just scare her for an hour and a half and then get around to the culmination of the movie.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, since we're talking about good things in the 80s, gun laws were lighter then, and so Will Byers has this bolt-action rifle just sitting in his shed, and bullets
Yeah.
laying on the counter. Go
And
Will.
knows how to use it.
Will knows how to use it. He's a superhero. He's ready to shoot this monster.
That's also a testament to the kind of woman Joyce is, that she has a rifle which she knows how to use and keeps in the shed in the back of her house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does she do with that? That's not a home defense weapon.
You never know
does
when
she go hunt?
somebody might trespass on your land.
Yeah, but you don't shoot them with a hunting rifle.
Got to defend your constitutional liberties to personal property,
It's true.
Or when the
But-
government encroaches on your land. So when these NSA guys that are keeping Elle in the basement come onto your land, you got to get out your rifle and shoot them.
Are you aware, by the way, that it's now legal to carry a sword openly in Texas?
In Texas, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, go Texas.
One of my favorite things about it is,
And
this reminded me a lot more of, it reminds me of not just Stephen King, and I'll get back to that in a second, but kind of like H.P. Lovecrafty. Like,
very much.
I've never read an H.P. Lovecraft story and been like, that was scary. I don't want to go in the basement now. I'm scared of the dark. But it's definitely
I have,
like,
but you're a tough.
I
You
haven't
got a
read them
tougher
all.
constitution.
Well,
than
no,
me.
I haven't read them all yet. So the few that I've read, they're definitely like chilling or disturbing at times and a little spooky. But they're not like, I'm so scared I can't leave my room right now. That's how I kind of felt like this was like in the first episode when she gets the phone call from the Demogorgon,
Mhm.
and it's chilling, it's disturbing for a minute, and you're like, oh, this is really scary, but like then it's over, and you're like, okay, we're back to a normal show. Later, the episode where she puts the Christmas lights up, that's probably the scariest I think the show ever gets.
When he tells her, run.
Yes, oh man.
So I've listened to a whole bunch of interviews with the creators and the producers, Duffer Brothers and Sean Levy,
Mhm.
and they talk a lot about their influences, and they talk a lot about how the show came to be. So the very
Mhm.
first thing that jumped out at me was E.T., and then the second thing was True Detective, especially the first season.
Yeah. There was, what was the other one thing that I really liked about this first episode is that if you cut the first, 2 minutes of the show, and you cut just the shot of seeing the Demogorgon, it's a scary small-town murder
yeah.
mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great. In fact, it's... Okay,
Like
so...
True Detective.
Yes, it's True It's not only True Detective, it reminds me of about 12 years ago, there was a murder in our hometown.
Since we're talking about, I won't derail you, we'll come right back to it, but I wanted to say, other than Coffee and Contemplation, my favorite line from this first episode is,
You want to know the worst thing that's ever happened here in the 4 years I've been working here? Do you want to know the worst thing? It was when an owl attacked Eleanor Gillespie's head because it thought that her hair was a nest.
and I think that was pretty much the town we grew up in, up until this murder.
Yes. Up until this murder. Well, and this murder completely 100% reminds me of the first episode of this show. Like, small little town. I know most of the police officers in town, and they're dorks. They're the people from Stranger Things because nothing ever happens in this town. the worst thing that happens, I remember one time getting a newsletter from the village office saying, maybe you should put away your lawn ornaments because someone in town is stealing lawn ornaments from people's front yard.
Oh, those garden gnomes again. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get right on that.
Exactly. I mean, it's identical. And then someone was murdered. And at first, like, they kind of just, like, I remember when it happened, like, until they found her body, they were like, oh, she probably just, you know, ran away from home, or she probably is out playing. Like, no one thought anything nefarious in the same way that this show is like, oh, we live in a small little town. And so they set it up so well for you as the audience who's seen Will disappear. And like I said, if you cut that 2 seconds of seeing the Demogorgon, for all you know, some creepy guy just kidnapped Will Byers. They do a really good job of you as the audience being like, no, don't just sit around and go, it's okay, he'll probably show up, no big deal. You know he's gone.
Joyce, 99 out of 100 times, kid goes missing. The kid is with a parent or a relative.
What about the other time?
Yeah, and so you feel like Joyce in that moment, which is great. Yeah, it's so cool that this show, with just a slight tweak in the first episode, could be just a small-town thriller like True Detective.
Well, so speaking of when and where we're from, unlike Scranton, Pennsylvania, Hawkins, Indiana is not a real place.
I was convinced, by the way, though, that the outside of Joyce's store, I was convinced that I had been there in real life, but then I looked it up and it wasn't even filmed in Indiana.
But yes, so it looks exactly like, that's my point where I'm going. So basically, we grew up in small town Indiana, 6 miles across the border, and you even more so than me, because you went to film school in Indiana, and I didn't.
Yep.
I went the opposite direction.
There was one other thing I wanted to bring up. So this is the 80s, right? One of my favorite things about it is characters that smoke make me very happy, because it's like the best tool to make a character interesting and have things to do when they have nothing to do. And it's very
since
humorous
it's
when they do
the
them in
great
weird
80s
times.
here, you get everybody smoking indoors.
I know.
You have the NSA scene there where they're listening in on all the phone lines, and you have the bank. Like, every other person down the row is a smoker, and every other person down the row is getting all this secondhand, and it's no big deal.
How was it ever a thought that secondhand smoke wasn't a thing? Just because I don't have the cigarette in my hand doesn't mean I'm not breathing in cigarette smoke.
I think a lot of these millennials won't understand this, because cigarette smoking culturally changed like lightning in America. There's very few things I think that have changed that fast, because when I was a kid, you would go sit in a restaurant, and there's the, quote, smoking section.
Oh, yeah.
It's the chair next to you.
I remember
like
a laundromat with a smoking section.
Yes, everybody smoked everywhere, and you walked through clouds of smoke, and you didn't mind it. You're just like, it's like walking by car exhaust. But now, you find somebody smoking within 100 feet of the door of a building, and people complain. They stop what they're doing, and they go, oh, I can smell the smoke.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. So it always makes me happy when a show or a movie is set in a time period where people can smoke indoors.
So
I myself am not a smoker, but it makes me very happy.
Actor David Harbour had quit smoking, and then he started again just for this role. He's a practitioner of American method.
Yes. You know what makes me happy about Netflix, by the way? Is if it was anything but Netflix, they wouldn't be allowed to smoke real cigarettes, even if they were smokers, because of, like, union rules and stuff. But yeah, even if you were, like, let's say I am a smoker and I'm cast in a movie, I'd have to smoke, like, fake herb cigarettes, even if I actually was a smoker. Whereas on Netflix, you can do whatever you want. I sat in a taping of a Netflix show one time that's like a sitcom. It's called The Ranch. It's very interesting. Ashton Kutcher is in it. The girl from Psych is in it. And Sam Elliott's in it. And there's a scene where they're sitting around talking at a dinner table and they're all drinking beer. And between takes, Ashton Kutcher goes, "It's great working for Netflix. This is real beer."
So wait,
then he ran up and handed it to an audience member. Yes, I was at the Warner Brothers lot. When I used to live in Los Angeles, in Burbank, which is where Warner Brothers and Walt Disney are, and sort of Universal, you can sign up to sit in the audience of TV shows. It's free. And so, like, you could go, the Ellen Show tapes on the Warner Brothers lot. You could go basically whenever you want, as long as you can get tickets, and they're free. And I signed up to go sit in on a taping of The Ranch, and you show up, and it's about 2.5 hours to tape a half-hour show, because they do several takes, and you're basically just there to laugh at jokes so that they have a laugh track.
So how do you keep laughing at the same joke you've seen in earlier takes?
Well, there's a comedian who amps the audience up, and it's very funny. No, I'm serious. I'm serious, and he's really good. Like, this guy, he looked familiar, but I couldn't place him, and I never caught his name. But like that was his career. He was not like a traveling stand-up comic. He was just he just amped up the crowd, and he would give away things too. There was a bit of an incentive to laugh hard because he'd be like, "All right, guys, my next prize is I've got a signed copy of the script or something," and he would give it to whoever he thought was like the funniest, the person who laughed the most or whatever. So there was kind of an incentive to laugh, and then also he would, while they were doing like a new setup for a new a new stage or whatever, and it's weird. Like, I mean, there's literally like 3 or 4 stages just in a row right in front of you. So sometimes you kind of can't see it very well, and there's TV screens. But anyway, between like setups, he'd bring someone from the audience down and like ask them questions, and was very good at making fun of them.
Like, whose line is it anyway going on during the taping of the show?
Exactly. He brought some person down, asked them where they were from, and they're like, "I am from Germany." And he goes, "Ah, you are a German spy!" And he like starts screaming at them, and it was hilarious. And so you're amped up and having fun, and so you're in a mood to laugh at things over and over.
So Netflix
it's also not,
is like this non-union, like this rebel, this rogue
yes.
producer.
It's amazing. This is the perfect example of how like rebel they are. Even though they're renting space on like the Warner Brothers lot, they were giving away alcohol as prizes for laughing hard at takes. Like, you don't do that on exactly. You don't do that on a normal show. If you go on Ellen, they're giving out like gift baskets with some book. So yeah, Netflix gets away with a lot more stuff.
So Oprah, you get a car. Netflix, you get beer. And on Ellen, you get her book club for the month.
Yeah, it's quite the experience. They actually, on shows that are brand new, that they don't have a drawing for an audience, they'll actually pay people to be in the audience and laugh. It's background actor day rate, so you get $84 to stand or sit in the audience and laugh.
Oh, so you actually count as being a background actor?
Yeah, if you're in the audience. Because you a lot of times, too, on those shows, like a friend of mine did, it was Steve Harvey. It was like a funnier version of Shark Tank. And so kind of like how on like a show like American Idol, the audience will be seen. The audience was seen in the show. So they actually cast the audience and hired, attractive people, not just anyone who wanted to walk in and be on the show. And they paid them. So these people really laughed and really got into the show and cheered.
Well, I wouldn't make it in then.
It's fake.
I think, who wouldn't make it in is Ted, the dad of Mike and Nancy.
I love Ted, by the way.
He's my favorite of all the parents.
He's my favorite of like all the minor characters. He's just so good. Yep.
Hope you're enjoying your chicken, Ted.
He's so good.
He's great. At the beginning, he's just hitting the TV. I think you should listen to your mom.
Yeah, that was great.
And he gets the line something about, "It's our government, honey. You can trust them. It's okay.
Oh, gosh.
They're on our side." He's just so disinterested in anything that happens more than 3 feet away from him.
He's great. All the minor characters in this show are fantastic. My favorite thing about the Duffer Brothers is that they're identical twins, but they have very different hairstyles. So when you see a picture of them, this picture of them is 2 separate pictures, both at Comic-Con, that are side by side, and it looks like just this man who showed up at Comic-Con 2 years apart and grew his hair out between them. Also, Matt has long hair and a beard, so I'm happy.
Coincidence, since you also have the long hair and the beard thing going on.
Exactly. But they both have beards, and you have no beard.
And I'm about as clean-shaven as Elle. So, I wanted to bring up that... So, the Return of the Jedi scene. I hear a lot in other Netflix podcasts and in YouTube interviews, I hear a lot of the influences on a lot of the shot-for-shot remakes of certain shows. But I've never yet heard this one about Return of the Jedi. But if you look at the very opening scene of this very first episode, it is the scene from Return of the Jedi when Vader arrives on Endor. Because we pan down from the stars and we see this industrial facility with big satellite dishes surrounded by tall trees, and that building represents like the heart of evil. On Endor, that's the heart of evil, and in Hawkins, Indiana, that's the heart of evil there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of those, yet one more of those shot-for-shot remakes that a lot of people...
Yes, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up about the episode that I thought was very interesting. I just absolutely love that they're playing Dungeons and Dragons at the beginning of the show.
Which also is right at the beginning of E.T.
I just absolutely love it because they're complete nerds. Because in the 80s, to know about that and be playing it as a 10-year-old...
Well, that was what caused the Satanism in
exactly.
the 80s.
Those ridiculous, over-the-top satanic cults that people thought existed. Oh, I remember old Adventures in Odysseys.
That's exactly what I was
about
gonna
the
bring up.
evil of Dungeons and Dragons.
That's exactly where I was going to go. The children's, for those who don't know, the children's Christian radio drama Adventures in Odyssey, which had
a classic.
episodes.
Look it up on YouTube.
Yes, yeah, some big name actors voice actors in there. And there were some very specific episodes. The one that stuck with me the most is there's a kid in a tent, and it plays this scary music, and there's footsteps coming up, and it's literally a demon coming to take him to hell for playing Dungeons and Dragons. And then it turns, and it becomes his mom or dad flips up the tent or something, and it's like the jump scare, and he's like, oh, it's Mom, it's you. Oh, gosh.
This
yeah,
show,
in the 80s, it was D&D that was getting kids in the satanic cults.
Adventures in Odyssey began the same year that you were born.
Oh, wow.
This makes me very happy. You spent your entire life growing up on Adventures in Odyssey.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was hearing it in utero.
But anyway, you know that at least one of the kids from Stranger Things is in it, right?
Oh, yeah. It's Finn Wolfhard.
Mike? Yep, it's Mike. Yes. You need to go see it. It's going to be so good.
Well, I guess I may because of this connection.
Yes, it's going to be
and Millie Bobby Brown is in Godzilla. And
Really?
then David Harbour is the new Hellboy.
Going to be Hellboy?
Well, look at his face. He looks slightly Ron Perlman-ish.
He was perfect. Ron Perlman was the perfect person to be Hellboy. Yeah, I guess he does kind of look like.
Since we're talking about good things in the 80s,
Remember those days?
the best action star.
Bruce Willis, come on. Die Hard?
Mm-hmm.
The best Christmas movie of all time?
Jingle All the Way is the best Christmas movie.
That one's pretty good.
With Arnold.
What
And
else?
Sinbad. And Jake Lloyd.
Sinbad, the
Jake
guy who
Lloyd's
made
other big hit.
Shazam.
No, the movie doesn't exist.
Shazam exists!
That movie doesn't
6
exist.
years ago, Corey and I had a conversation about Shazam.
Look it up online. It does not exist.
Sinbad has used all his worldly wealth to erase its existence, but it's real.
No, it was
Shazam is
Shaquille
real.
O'Neal in Kazam.
That movie is a front
which-
by Sinbad to hide his
Which is a movie I
flaw.
actually did watch at the appropriate age when it came out in my childhood.
I actually watched Shazam as a child.
No,
Yes, I did. It is real.
you were living in
The upside down.
at that time.